Hello everyone, it's Bree here with Let's Talk Tech, and today's topic is going to be on blended learning, a general overview. So let's go ahead and get right into the topic. So what is blended learning? Blended learning is learning that combines that traditional classroom style of learning with online educational tools and resources. Some pros of blended learning are definitely more flexibility, more engagement, the differentiation that you get within teaching to each learner's learning style. The cons, definitely lack of motivation. It can be for people who aren't online learners, it just doesn't work for them. The lack of technology skills can be discouraging for a learner who's trying to learn the material and also trying to learn the system to learn the material. And the most common one would be students can fall behind because of the lack of structure, and you kind of just put it off and you say, I can get to it when I get to it, and you just actually end up just falling behind. So today we will just do a general overview of the most common types of blended learning. And then you can definitely comment and hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you would like to see more videos that dive deeper into each of these blended learning styles. So, our first type of blended learning is our project-based learning. What is project-based learning? According to BBL Works, project-based learning is a teaching method in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world and personally meaning projects. And you'll see probably in a lot of my videos, we talk about project-based learning because project-based learning I would say, in my opinion, has proven to be the most engaging, most successful type of online learning that combines that face-to-face and online aspect. Um, it's awesome in my opinion. But how do we implement project-based learning in our blended learning environments? This learning model, it definitely combines the traditional classroom education with a variety of collaborative, iterative design, artifact creation, and publication tools. And each component is definitely important to the successful implementation and successful, I would say, go through the whole project. You need to have each one of those. Without one, it just doesn't give that full effect, and you don't reap, I would say, the full benefits of project-based learning. Our next topic is remote learning. What is remote learning? Remote learning is learning that takes place in a space other than a traditional classroom, where the learner and instructor are separated by time and distance. And how do we implement remote learning and blending learning environments? Remote learning is kind of holistically rooted in primary online instruction. So you would kind of have that with face-to-face interaction, meeting with your instructor or your peers or as needed. The next blended learning type is lab rotation, and lab rotation learning is learning that takes place in a traditional classroom, but it moves to another physical location to complete the online activities. So we have our traditional classroom where most of our subjects are taught, and then we have a separate online or a separate lab for where computers or whatever online equipment you have, web tech tools, 3D printers, you will have those there for the students to go to that different environment to do those activities. And how do we incorporate or implement the blended learning? The instructor would schedule specific times for lab access for those learners to complete those online activities. So one part of the day would be completed in the classroom, and the other part of the day would be completed in the lab. All right, and the next type of blended learning is station rotation. So with station rotation, the learning takes place within different locations in the classroom. So kind of having station one, station two, station three. Maybe we have an iPad over here, we have a computer over here. We have some other technological devices where students learn from for station 3 and 4, and we implement that station rotation by the instructor again scheduling specific times for the students to complete those activities or lessons and within that classroom setting. All right, and our next type of blended learning is a flipped classroom. And the flipped classroom is when the learning takes place at home and the study and practice takes place in the physical classroom between the teacher and the peers. And how do we implement a flipped classroom in our blended learning environments? We do this by our educator putting the learning content online for the students to review at home. Go through, read, learn, whatever learning materials you choose to use. Then once the students come in the classroom, that's when again that's practice and study kind of happens. I know one of my classes we had a similar structure like actually probably that same structure. And when we got into the classroom, he went over the homework problems that we were supposed to do for that class, and we kind of talked about it, got our questions out, what we didn't understand, and we would do more group projects to kind of review what we just went over as far as the study. So the next type of blended learning is our individual rotation. What is individual rotation learning? It is learning that takes place in a classroom or online where students are moved to different learning stations on a scheduled individual basis that is tailored to their specific learning needs. And this is implemented in the blended learning environment. Again, the students are moved from the learning stations to another, but they're only moving to stations that are on their list. And students are not going to hit every station. Some students may, but necessarily not all students will. Our next type of blended learning is flex learning. And flex learning is when learners kind of learn at their own pace through a set of predetermined learning materials who they receive guidance from their instructor through those one-on-one or small group sessions. And it's implemented by kind of operating or having that learning management system that will incorporate all the desired functions for your desired outcomes. And there are different type of learning management systems that address different type of teacher needs. My favorite one is at Modo. You can kind of create your own, but there are different type of ones. So you would just, as the instructor, have to see which learning management system works for you. And it does allow the students to work at their own pace while still meeting those requirements. Our next type of blended learning is the self-directed learning, where learners are again learning at their own pace through their personalized learning goals, where there is no formal online class. And how is this implemented within our blended learning environment? It takes a combination of online and face-to-face learning to guide the learners through their own personalized inquiry and achieve their formal learning goals. And learners can connect with their mentors physically or digitally. And these kind of remind me of kind of our MOOCs that we have within online courses there, or some other courses kind of provide that self-directed learning, and they kind of have you write papers at the end on reflections or things like that. And our next type of learning is the Insideout. So with Insideout blended learning, the learning experiences are basically to end up beyond the classroom, i.e. the project-based learning is a prime example because the issue that the project is addressing is something in the community, something in the classroom, something that is a problem where the students in project is going to address that problem, and it's going to be presented to whoever it needs to be presented to address that problem. And so that's why it's more engaging, and it's kind of implemented through those same ways of having technology tools, and you have your classroom setting where you do your learning. And it can be implemented through like these 9 concepts that I found. You have your 5 learning actuators. We have to change our habits, how we teach and how we view learning. Transparency, self-initiated transfer, mentoring, community, changing roles, expanding our literacies. And I definitely will have links that will expand on each of these topics more in the description. The next type of learning is outside in, which is definitely the flip, where the learning experiences are staying inside the classroom, the physical classroom. So the student showcases, parent-teacher conference showcases, those type of learning experiences are kind of inside. They don't go beyond the school. And it's implemented through that face-to-face interaction along with those online materials. You can still kind of showcase online, have online portfolios, things like that, where you can keep inside the classroom. Our next type of blended learning is supplemental learning, and according to Teach Thought staff, supplemental blended learning encompasses students to complete either their online work to supplement their face-to-face work, or the opposite, where they're going to be in the face-to-face environment with those learning activities to supplement the learning gained from the other days of online courses. And again, it's implemented through those critical learning objectives that are met for one space, and you want to supplement the learning objectives in the other space to make up for what you didn't learn in that first space. So we definitely want our online activities to supplement the learning materials that you can't get in the online environment from a face-to-face. And we definitely want our face-to-face activities to be learning materials that you can't get from being in an online environment. And our last blended learning type is mastery-based blended learning. And again, according to Teach Thought staff, mastery blended learning is students who rotate between online and face-to-face learning based on the completion of their mastery-based learning objectives. And it's implemented in our blended learning environments through the ability to use face-to-face and digital assessment tools to design learning materials and experiences based on the completion of their mastery goals. And some benefits of implementing blended learning. According to EdTech Review, 59% of teachers reported that students were more engaged and motivated to learn in a blended learning environment. Another statistic, according to EdTech Review, again, a survey of educators completed by Learning in the 21st Century reported that 76% of those who were asked believe that blended learning is beneficial to students. Another report on how digital content is changing education in both higher education and K through 12 learning that takes place at least partly online definitely continues to grow. This was kind of older statistics. In 2013, 33% of higher education students took at least one online course. Meanwhile, 43% of K through 12 administrators projected that tomorrow they'll be offering online courses to students, where here we are in 2020, where, unfortunately we had a shutdown where just about everything became online. And even as I am completing my master's degree, I was already kind of tailored my courses online, but for those who don't like online learning, I can see that it's a definite struggle for some. Another statistic, 2009 U.S. Department of Education meta-analysis found that blended learning, where students have some face-to-face and some online learning experiences, makes blending learning the most effective learning model. And again, according to EdTech Review, a survey found that 60% of educators believe online learning better motivated their students, and virtual, blended, and flipped learning instructors use more digital content than traditional instructors. And here are just a couple of the resources. Again, I will put those in the description below. And thanks for tuning in. Definitely subscribe, comment, and like. And thank you.